Hello and welcome to another edition of Freaky Friday Guest Stories. Today we are so thrilled to have the guest we have. It is Riley Rose Critchlow. You will recognize them from The Real Housewives of Dungeons and Dragons. And this December in Chriskirkpatrickmas, a boy band musical in London. Riley, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited for you to be here too. Riley is also a member of my family.
There you go. Full disclosure.
It's extra special for you to be here. And I had to giggle at Chriskirkpatrickmas because it's the best name of any show that's ever been put up.
So, that's how it started. It just started as Val and Allison, the show's creators, at a party, like drunkenly being like, what if there was a Christmas musical called Chriskirkpatrickmas? And then like looking at each other across the room, just knowingly like that might be it. That might be the idea. And cut to 10 years later. And here we are performing it off West End in December.
That's amazing. Getting 5-star reviews from The Guardian, and you just came off a run at Edinburgh. How was that? How did everybody enjoy it?
It was incredible. It's one of those things that you sort of do a safe version of a show. So we did Hollywood Fringe, and that went really well. And we were like, okay, maybe we can do an LA run of this show. And that went really well. And then it was like, maybe we could do an Edinburgh run. And that went better than anybody expected. I had done Edinburgh once before with a show that wasn't as good. And I had a feeling that Chris would do well in Edinburgh, but I didn't. You always sort of manage your expectations so you're not horribly disappointed. So I wasn't anticipating it getting quite as many incredible reviews as it did. So we were very lucky. Yeah.
How was the audience reaction? Just dying the whole time?
Everybody enjoyed it. And we had a lot of people there that didn't know NSYNC, which was sort of devastating.
You're like, there's a lot of Easter eggs in here that you're just...
It's incredibly historically accurate. Val and Allison, everything that happens in the show, with the exception of one sort of supernatural element, everything else is like historically accurate down to like verbatim words people said to each other at certain moments. It's like very, very well researched. But we had, there's like a part of it that takes place on Christmas Eve 2009. And someone came up to us afterwards with their daughter, and they were like, she was born on Christmas Eve 2009. And I was like, do you know who NSYNC is? I do now. I was like, oh, good. So if nothing else, we're just educating the world about the joys that is NSYNC.
You brought her into the fold, into the fandom.
Is it the history of NSYNC? Like, where does it start and where does it end in their history?
Yeah, so it's essentially like a Christmas Carol meets It's a Wonderful Life meets NSYNC. So it's a journey that Chris Kirkpatrick is going on retrospectively. It does take place in 2009, so we're not doing anything post 2009 except a couple imaginative moments about what might happen. But we're flashing back to 1995, which is when NSYNC began, and then going through the journey up until Justin went on his solo career, and then NSYNC went on their indefinite hiatus. So it's examining that period of, are they going to get back together? Are they ever? And now, currently in 2023, some of those questions have come up again. So it seems to be timelier than we realized, or we just take credit for NSYNC getting that together.
You summoned it. You conjured this.
Absolutely. Justin Timberlake owes you some residuals from this Trolls 3.
Yeah, it's Trolls 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trolls 3. Yes. Ella is very excited, as are we all.
Yes.
To go see it. But yeah, it's a big deal for them to reunite now.
I know.
Come back together.
I'm here for it.
I feel like we're reuniting because we had a little experience on Real Housewives of DnD. This isn't the first time that the three of us have been on mic together recording a podcast.
It's true. This is actually technically our official announcement of our very first, very special season 2 RHO DnD guest stars, our Sinisterhood team. You guys are so much fun. Funny on this show. I hope you're. I can't imagine that your listeners have ever heard you do what you do on Real Housewives of Dungeons and Dragons. Because
True, you're right.
So
probably not. Yeah,
weird and amazing. It was such a delight to have you on the show, and I cannot wait for your episodes to come out very, very soon. So if you're listening and you want to catch up on RHO D&D, the time is now, because Christy and Heather are about to enter the picture and things are about to get extremely weird and delightful.
Well, we're thrilled to do it. Yeah, I love to do. I mean, not just because we love you and we want to hang out. It is genuinely such a funny show. It is super well planned by the drama masters instead of dungeon masters, and it's the way that you all play, and that every guest you have, every cast member completely commits, and the results are hilarious. And it's just like the Chriskirkpatrickmas, I'm sure. How did y'all come up with Real Housewives of D&D, of thinking of putting these things together? Because it has such a funny result.
So it's essentially the same team that is behind Chriskirkpatrickmas that is also behind.
Fallon was drunk at a Christmas party again. It was like, what if Dungeons and Dragons and Real Housewives come together?
Honestly, not far from the truth. Like, I got a text probably in the middle of the night in like July of 2021 from Valen, who I went to high school with and have been good friends with for a long time. But we had sort of fallen out of touch. I hadn't really talked to her in a couple years, probably. So this was still a very out of the blue text. And it just said, Real Housewives of Dungeons and Dragons, ? Which I was like, yes. I'm in 100%. No notes, no questions.
I love it. What a friend that you can text someone years later and you're like, you just jump back in it. That's a true friend.
She's like, Riley would love this.
Like, since then, I think I've probably seen or spoken to her every single day, because now we're doing the podcast. We're also doing the musical. So yeah, I mean, working, as I'm sure you guys know, working with your close friends on something creative that you can dedicate a lot of your time to is the best thing.
It's the dream.
It's the dream.
It's literally the dream. Yeah. It's what we all dreamed of. I think we all did theater. You're a theater kid. Yeah. And it's essentially like just getting to make art with your friends on your own terms, which is even better, that you're not just reading the words of what someone else has written. It's like your own words and voice coming out, which is the ultimate goal.
And that with Real Housewives of D&D, the whole cast, which every time I think I have a favorite cast member, it changes because somebody else will say something, because I'm like, okay, it's Cass. Cass is my favorite. And then I'm like, no, it's Kiki. Kiki is so chaotic. And Anya, the whole cast. But for our listeners who kind of don't really know the concept of it, can you give them kind of a quick... Sure. What you need to know about Real Housewives, because I'm telling you all listening, you need to go and catch up. If not, at least to season 2, catch up even season 1. I mean, it's so funny. It's like one of my walk pods. Like, I just walk around laughing, listening to it.
Oh my God, I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean, basically the premise is that there is the cast, a fictional cast of a reality show. So the Real Housewives of Anaheim, which they haven't made yet. Although, Andy Cohen, if you want to talk, I've got some ideas. The Real Housewives of Anaheim are in the middle of their reunion show, shooting it on a soundstage, when all of a sudden the ground opens up, they fall through a portal, and now they are dropped into a very classic D&D fantasy realm where they're going to have to learn things like spells and combat and what to do with a scimitar, how to pronounce the word scimitar. We are all also learning kind of how to play D&D along with our characters, because a lot of us were very, very new to D&D. So you'll see and hear us stumbling through. But yeah, I mean, it's an improvised show that is probably, we get a lot of the D&D rules wrong. So if you're like a stickler for the D&D mechanics, you can either listen to it and then email us all the things we did wrong, or just know that we don't care that much.
It's comedy. We're doing it for comedy.
If you want a traditional D&D podcast, I'm sure there's a ton out there.
There's plenty.
It's special because the Real Housewives of Anaheim, which Anaheim is such a funny city to have a Real Housewives cast out of.
It really is.
It's like you didn't even get cast in Beverly Hills or Los Angeles. Like
there are two franchises that are like pretty nearby, but we didn't quite make it to either of those. But like we would like to think we're fancy enough.
It's very third tier, but that makes the characters like so funny, because all of y'all have backstories, and I'll be like, no, you should listen to me. This is why I'm important, and it just reeks of the absolute real desperation on the Housewives, because the Housewives are always wanting to. So you guys take those characters and just play them like a fiddle. It's so good.
And this is something when we first started, when Valen sent me that text, I was like, yes, I'm in. I've never played DnD and I've never watched Real Housewives. So let's do some research. And then I did some research, which turned into me just becoming like hopelessly addicted to Real Housewives, which I'm sure we all probably could have seen coming. But I was like, no, it's for the show.
Right. No.
Same.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've covered a couple of Real Housewives because of the crimes that they've committed. And anytime Tommy would walk in and be like, it's for the show. I'm working right now. Okay. He's like, you've been watching Real Housewives for 5 hours straight. This is my job.
Yeah.
Like, thank you very much.
Obviously. I have a notepad next to me. Like, it's legit.
Same. No, Kyle will come in and be like, are they still rehashing the same drama from like 5 years ago? And I was like, they sure are. That's right. That's part of the joy. But once, you guys like cults. I also like cults. Big fan.
Yeah.
I guess fan's a weird way to say it, but I'm
fascinated.
Yes. So as a person who is fascinated by cults and has done a lot of research on cults, there was an episode of a podcast called Is It a Cult? I believe. Fantastic podcast. And they did an episode on Real Housewives. And in my research, I was like, well, I should probably research this as well. And I expected it to be that they were presenting the Real Housewives franchises as a cult that then the listeners were being pulled into, that you were buying into this cult as a listener and like, watch out. But instead what they did, which makes so much sense to me, is they were focusing on the cast members as the members of the cult and the producers as like the overlords of the cult, which became so interesting for me to think about. Essentially, what I didn't realize about Real Housewives is when you become a cast member on the show, you are making a huge financial investment in a payoff that may or may not come. So in order to get your salary up to the level where it's making you money, you have to be on for several seasons. And in order to stay on for several seasons, you need to play the Housewives game, which is
like be interesting,
drama,
be dramatic, but also you're wearing the latest fashion. They're all paying for all their fashions, all their glam. Right. They're taking each other on these expensive, extravagant trips. And the more expensive and extravagant your trip is, the more likely maybe you are to continue to be on the show. Or, it's an equation that's up to the Housewives to try and decipher and decide what's going to make them a more interesting cast member so they don't get cut. So the producers are constant, and then it means they're more likely to start drama with each other. And, even if it's not real, even if it's them starting a rumor or something, because they're like, I'm going to get the screen time, and then I'm going to get the social media followers, and then I'm going to get, my contract's going to get renewed. So once I started looking at it through that lens, it's so much more horrifying, but also so much more fascinating.
No, for sure. It's like that season, Lisa Vanderpump was like, this is what our season's about, when it was the whole Munchausen by proxy, or it wasn't Munchausen.
No, they were accusing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yes. They were accusing, what's her name of having Munchausen. Cause she was like legitimate. Yeah. Bella Hadid's, Gigi and Bella's mom.
Yes. Gigi and Bella's mom.
Gigi and Bella's mom, which is also wild because you see them on Real Housewives being like, I might try modeling. And you're like, holy shit.
You see her going, you should slice that almond up, and you should only eat a few slices of that almond. That's right. Too many almonds.
She's the ultimate almond mom.
Oh, she sucks.
The original almond mom.
She is. I remember being like, I had an eating disorder, and I'm a little triggered by this like behavior of her doing that. But it was riveting television is the sad thing.
Riveting television. And that's where I watch reality TV, but I usually like competition reality TV. But once I realized that Real Housewives is competition, that they're competing against each other to continue to be on the show, to get these contracts, to get wildly famous. And the payoff for somebody like a Bethany Frankel, who is maybe the most famous Real Housewife and went on to sell her company for hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, a crazy amount of money.
Tons.
When you see what can happen to a very successful housewife, it becomes, compared to something like Survivor, which has a $1 million cash prize, it's actually an even more significant win potentially. Yeah. But you're also sacrificing things like your personal life, all of your friends and family,
your soul to the devil. Your kids. You're willing to do whatever, and it is sad. And it's I was blown away when I found out that they pay for everything themselves. Whatever they're wearing, their glam squads and everything. I think
the private
planes,
yes.
When we were covering Erica Girardi, because we were like,
it's like $40,000 a month.
I always thought Bravo like paid for it. It's actually a very cheap show for Bravo to produce because
kind of brilliant.
They're putting up all the money.
Yeah. They convinced these women that they should spend all their own money, making the production value extremely high by doing all of these, luxury yachts and private planes, and they go on these
and the house. Jen Shah's house was rented. Like that's not even her house. And you're like, you're now renting a massive multi-million-dollar house, hoping that maybe you'll get some sort of business opportunity. Which I think doesn't Andy Cohen and/or Bravo get 10% of any business that you launch after being on the show? It's the Bethany Frankel rule.
It's called the Bethany
right?
rule, exactly, because they didn't do that with Skinny Girl and have been kicking themselves forever. So now
she sold it for
anytime a
mucho.
housewife like pitches a new brand or a new product and they're going to promote it on the show, Bravo gets a cut. So it is kind of this brilliant but very cult-like setup.
It's like a hard
manipulative.
Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah. And then Jen Shah is like, I'm going to spend millions on this Airbnb. And then she goes to prison.
And then she goes to prison.
All your dirty secrets come out on reality TV.
Yeah,
you
gotta
can't
say.
hide all that
Sacrifice.
stuff for long.
If you're thinking about dipping your toe in the Real Housewives pond, I highly recommend starting with Salt Lake City. It's only a couple seasons, and you get some real big dramatic shit.
Those bathtub moments where they're like all in the tubs, like screaming at each other outside. And it's like, why are your bathtubs outside? I was losing it, man. And then, of course, when they're all in the van and it's like, the FBI is coming to get Jen Shah, Bravo's just like, oh,
yes.
Nom, 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 nom.
A producer's dream. So anyway, we were like, there's so much source material to work with. So many, like, the most extreme characters, the most extreme examples of drama and twists and turns and things that can happen. So putting that all in a classic D&D fantasy world excited us. We saw some potential there. So that's what we're exploring on Real Housewives of Dungeons.
We were excited to be on season 2. So Christy's episode will air first. Is that right?
Yes. Christy joins us first, and then Heather joins us shortly thereafter. So December 11th, I believe, is when Christy's first episode airs. So get ready.
You'll have 10 days to get all caught up on season 1.
By the time this airs, binge it.
Binge it all.
Easily.
There's only season 1 is 16 episodes, and I think you'll have a couple at the beginning of season 2 to catch up on. So it's doable.
But to me, I would get sad because I would run out of episodes, and I was like, well, I'm all caught up. So because it is so bingeable, because it's that ongoing gameplay improv. You're just listening to these characters doing the most outrageous stuff. Anyway, just listen to it. But
it's so impressive too, and I've always thought that about D&D, the dungeon master or drama master being able to keep track of everything that everyone has done in the story, and even y'all as characters remembering like things you said 12 episodes ago and like your character traits carrying through. It's a lot of information to remember, and everyone executes it perfectly.
Well, thank you. Because in my experience, I'm like, I forget so much every episode. Valen and Allison, our drama masters, have done a wonderful job of keeping copious notes. And also they help us a little bit more than your typical DM might. I think in a lot of D&D games, it's up to the players to like really know their own character sheet and their own abilities. And if they forget something, then that's on them. We get some hand holding on this show, which is very kind of them.
That's how you make a good show, is everybody works together.
And helps each other.
Sorry, Riley, if you don't remember what Cassandra did last week, then that's on you.
I mean, there's a little bit of that. Allison specifically likes to sometimes punish us for not keeping tabs on everything. But if we forget like a D&D mechanic, they'll be like, let me break this down for you for the 14th time. Here's how you roll for damage or whatever.
That's what I loved it, because you'll say, am I allowed to do that? And sometimes they'll go, well, I mean, not really, but because of this, okay. That's they're benevolent drama masters. We love that.
Well, they also know what makes a comedic good show, so you got to let some things slide for the sake of the show.
Yeah. And that's D&D in general. I think at its core, D&D is just an improvised storytelling game where you're all telling a story together, and you can be a real stickler about the rules, but that sometimes makes it less fun for the people involved. So it's a balance. Yeah,
it's a game.
It's a game.
It's like fun. Games are
Same
like
fun. It's with improv. We've been in troops where it's like you have beat A, B, and C, and then we're gonna have 2A, 2, and you're like, I just want to get up here and play.
Yeah.
It's like too many rules. It becomes less fun when everyone's just like, no, we have to stick to this exact format. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you have to have a little bit of rules and then some leeway to play around and be very silly. Which you'll get a lot of the silly side of it if you listen to the show, especially with Christy and Heather. You guys,
I'm remembering.
And I am so excited to re-listen because I remember a couple of things, but I know that a lot happened that I'm forgetting. Our characters are very fun.
And I've never heard your episodes, so I have to hear that
remember
first.
That when we get to Heather's introduction and the way in which, I won't spoil it, but the way in which you are reintroduced to Christy as she comes back with this gang, this new gang of housewives is one of the funniest moments to me on the show.
Oh, I can't wait. I just loved it. I love to play a character. That was so much fun. Anytime you want us to come back, I'll do it.
Oh, we would love to be back.
Improvising a story with other actors and improvisers, and everyone's committed and also very good. There's nothing that's to me the most exciting type of performing to do.
Totally.
100%.
It's very fun. Luckily at this point in my life, I've somehow set myself up so I get to do that. And then also an in-sync drag musical. And
You're living your best life.
Because
you play Lance
Riley
in the
would
musical.
be like, you're nailing it.
You're nailing it. I always say that. I'm like, if 12-year-old me just had a few seconds to see what was going on, to be like, nice. Hey, nice.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Good for you. All right. I'm not going to worry too much.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry. Don't worry too much, hopefully.
It's like, just forget about everything that's going to happen in high school.
Yeah.
Just
whatever.
It will fuel your
block
joy.
It out anyways.
Yeah, it'll fuel your comedy. It's fine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You need it. Well, I'm eager to hear your Freaky Friday story because I heard, because you and Christy have been acquainted with one another for 13 years? How long have y'all?
How long have you and
Kyle
Kyle
I guess
been
Kyle
together?
and I have been together for 10 years. So
10 years. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And
10
Kyle
years.
is my brother for most people
for
know,
reference.
but if you have never heard, he is one of my brothers. And yeah, so Riley and I've had the pleasure of having Riley in my life for a decade now.
So you've gotten to hear some Riley stories. So I'm here, and I'm sure the audience is excited too. What kind of Freaky Friday story you got for us today?
Yeah. So this is not a story from my childhood, although I did grow up on a tiny island in Maine where all sorts of weird shit happened. When I was thinking about all my weird stories and which one to choose, this one stuck out to me because it's relatively well documented. Because I had an interesting experience in Los Angeles, and then I contacted an expert about it, and I have my emails with this expert.
You came with receipts.
I came with receipts. And so that was also easier. I don't think I would remember as many details if I had just, if it was just a glimpse from this. I think it's from 2013. So yeah, 11 years ago. Right before I started dating Kyle. So, back when my life was even weirder. And yeah, I mean, do you want me to read my thing? Do you want me to, what's the best?
However you want to tell us, lay it on us.
We'll we can be conversational with talking, but we won't interrupt you during the emails because I feel like, or unless we'll follow your lead.
Yeah, I basically have bullet points, so feel free to interject or ask questions if you have them. I just wanted to make sure I got all the details correct. So
perfect.
Here's where we're going. March 3rd, 2013. I was driving to set, shooting Video Game High School, along the 5 freeway in Los Angeles, going north, heading past Griffith Park. We were shooting the 3rd season of VGHS, I believe. This was at about 6:10 a.m. As I was passing Griffith Park near Glendale, I looked up and saw what I can only describe as 3 dragons flying over my car.
God damn it. What? I was not expecting.
I'm sorry, did you say dinosaurs? You saw 3 dinosaurs?
Well, I've never
because dragons
heard
are
this
dinosaurs.
Story, and
I'm so glad.
I can't believe I've never heard this story, but I'm so glad because my reaction is genuine. I'm shocked and thrilled at the same time.
It's happening. It's happening. We're getting proof. We're getting evidence.
Here we are. So yeah, saw 3 dragons.
What did they look like? What? When you looked up, were you immediately like, yeah, that's a dragon?
Did they breathe fire?
So I was driving and the dragons were flying. towards me. So I just got, as they flew over my car, so I grew up with a mother who is very into birds and would frequently, when we were driving, be like, hawk, and you have like 2 seconds to see it. Right?
So your eyes are on the sky when you're driving anyway.
As soon as there's something flying over, I'm already like, because I don't want to miss the hawk. When my mom's like, owl, and I'm like, there it is, you know? As a child, I'd be like, what? And then it's too late and you miss it. So you learn. You learn to watch the sky. I also worked for several years as a reptile handler. So I am relatively familiar with, here's a sentence, I'm relatively familiar with what the belly of a large lizard looks like.
That's the thing. You're telling us because you're qualified in bird information and lizard information. And what is a dragon but a bird mixed with a lizard?
A bird lizard. That's it.
That's what you've got.
So what it looked like to me was, you know, and I'm also, because I've looked up and seen birds in my life, unlike most people, I'm pretty familiar with like the shape of a hawk versus the shape of a crow or the shape of an owl or something like that. So I was already in this split second analyzing like, what is that? Is that a goose? Is that they're pretty large. There's 3 of them flying in like a V formation, and they flew over my car, and they looked to be about several feet long with like a head to body to tail ratio that I couldn't ascribe to any bird I had ever seen. So like the head, and then there was a neck, I could see visible neck, and then the body, they had wings that were long and angular and pointed, which you don't usually see in birds.
So they weren't feathery.
I mean, I couldn't tell if they were feathery because they were high up, but it was more about the angle of like the elbow. Do birds have elbows?
Yeah.
Is that it?
The joint, the wing joint?
Yeah, it looked like there was like an elbow like angle.
I see what you're saying.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, so like they could, like
it wasn't just like hawks, they might be straight out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like
a Barbie doll.
Seagulls have like a little bit of an angle maybe, but it was sort of like an angular wing. It didn't look like an arm. It looked like a wing, but it was kind of like a pterodactyl. You know what I mean? It's got like a little bit of an angle in it. And then their tails were long and had points, like triangular points at the end of their tails.
Like a dragon tail.
It's a dragon.
So that's where I was like, in the maybe 3 seconds of them passing over my car, that's what I saw. They also looked kind of light in color, like white, gray, light green. Again, their bellies is what I would be seeing. So to me, that kind of, if you've ever even just seen a video of like an alligator flip over, it's like their bellies are that like
looks
light.
Like that.
Yeah, it looks like that light kind of greenish, grayish coloring.
Like a gator belly.
And I didn't have time, I'm driving to set, so I didn't like pull over or stop, and I couldn't track where they were going because they went over the top of my car. But I did yell out loud to the person in the car with me, "Did you just see those dragons?" And he just said, "What?" And so I unfortunately,
and that's where you go, you missed it. That's where you got to keep your eyes on the sky.
On the sky all the time. You're gonna miss it.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have a witness to corroborate the story because he wasn't paying attention.
Maybe you do. Maybe March 3rd. Is that what you said?
3rd, 2013 at 6:10 a.m.
If you witness these 3 dragons in Los Angeles flying through the sky, please let us know.
Please.
We need confirmation.
Please. Sinisterhoodpodcast@gmail.com. Send it now. Don't delay.
So like at the time, the 3rd season of Game of Thrones was about to premiere in like a couple of weeks. So immediately my brain starts going like, what the fuck? So Game of Thrones had been doing a lot of promo stuff. I figured maybe it was like a cool publicity stunt with like big kites or something that look like dragons that are like,
drone.
Set up on wires or something. So when I got to set, I just kind of casually started asking people if anybody else saw dragons on their way to set this morning. Nobody did. So
haters.
I know, lame. But then I was like checking Twitter because I figured it was like, oh, if it's a publicity thing, whatever, a promo thing, somebody's going to be posting pictures. There's going to be some news headline, something. Couldn't find anything.
I feel like people in Los Angeles, you have to get used to that because sometimes TV studios go hard on promotions. And like when they had the Smile campaign and there's just people looking absolutely deranged that, I'm sorry, in the movie, they run at you and kill you. And now they're standing next to me at a baseball game. Yeah. Some guy can't hit off he can't hit off a home run having that standing behind him. It's just the people of Los Angeles are always subjected to a barrage of bizarre promotions. So it makes sense that you're like, it's probably
exactly.
that.
And immediately where my brain went. I guess I didn't go to a place of like, I probably didn't see dragons. I was just like, oh, well, those were dragons. Why would there be dragons? The movies.
Whose are they? Is the next question.
Who left their dragons here?
Who let the dragons out? It's this classic question.
Rawr. Yeah, I was trying to think of how fire would sound.
Yeah. There it is.
Sweet.
So yeah, obviously I got nowhere on set. So when I got home later that night, after some more extensive Googling, I got in touch with a dragon expert that I found on the internet.
Fuck yes.
Thank you for not dropping this.
No.
Yeah, no. All day this was on your mind, and you're like, now I gotta eat.
They're
home.
like, Riley, can we do another take of that? You're like, yeah. What the fuck were those dragons? What was my line?
Like set down my sketches that I'm like feverishly
preoccupied. You're a little bit. How'd you find a dragon expert?
Google.com.
Nice.
Classic.
Google.com. Yeah, we use that.
And
Classic.
it looks like the first email I sent to him was at about 3 a.m. So obviously I'm doing this.
You are not the first person that's contacted this person at 3 a.m.
And you had seen the dragons at 6 a.m. the prior day. So this is a solid.
Well, it's the prior day. Yeah.
But so
it's
you were almost coming up on 24 hours.
Almost, right.
Oh my.
But I got in touch with a man named Jonathan Whitcomb, who runs the site livepterosaurs.com. The site is still up.
Okay.
He's still doing the work. I messaged him through his website. I described my sighting. And he wrote back almost immediately. 3 a.m. I think I emailed him at like 3:13. He wrote back at like 3:41 or something like that. He like got right back to me.
That's probably when he does
the majority of his dragon work.
Oh, that makes it. I didn't know if maybe he was asleep and he not like through any kind of a notification on iPhone, but just sort of subconsciously, he's like, someone's seen a dragon.
Intuitively.
And he's out of bed. Like, they need help.
So he wrote back because he had some follow-up questions. He wanted to know if the dragons were flying towards Griffith Park or away from Griffith Park. They were flying towards. He wanted to know about how high they were above the freeway. I said not too high, although I'm not a great judge of distance, but not too high. They weren't like way up in the sky like a plane. And then he also wanted to know whether my car passed directly below them, which it did, and if I saw any neck on any of them, which I did. So I sent that back to him. He got my answers, and he replied, "I'm grateful for your help. I believe you may have seen 3 American ropins, an unclassified flying creature that appears to be a living pterosaur, sometimes called pterodactyl. But it would be very helpful if we could communicate more." He then asked me for more clarifying details, such as, did you see any feet on any of them? I had not. Could you make any kind of determination about feathers or the lack of feathers? I could not. And was there any glow or any kind of light coming from any of the 3 flying creatures? There wasn't. But it was daytime. So I don't know. Maybe if I had seen them at night, they would have been glowing. Who knows? So he then reconfirmed that his best guess as to what I saw was, again, likely ropins. And he told me that there had been other sightings in Southern California. So to determine the exact classification, he sent me a group of sketches of silhouettes so that I could identify which one looked the most like the dragons that I saw.
It's a lineup.
This is the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
Now, did he draw these sketches? Are these his renderings?
Is there a way I can send you these sketches?
You can text it to us if you want.
Okay, I just texted it to you guys.
Okay, these are the sketches. Oh, okay. It goes 1 through 34 different possibilities. This is a lot to consider.
There were so many.
Yeah, they range from what I would call, obvious birds to obvious dragons with like some maybe alien airships, and then like the Batman symbol is in there for good measure.
Yeah, there definitely is a Batman.
I see a bat. Number 1 looks like bat to me, and then there's they kind of some look like hawks, and we're by the time you get to 34, we're into some pterosaur territory.
Pterosaur territory. I ask, what was the time? How long did it take between each of your correspondence?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he wrote back to me the first time at 3:44 a.m. And then I followed up. I think I was maybe asleep by then, one would hope. The next day, 2:50 p.m. He wrote back at 4:51 p.m. I wrote back at 5:22 p.m. He wrote back at 6:08 p.m. I wrote back at 6:11 p.m. He wrote back at 6:21 p.m. I wrote back at 7:43. He wrote back at 7:56, 9:42. 2:58 a.m. is when he sent me the silhouettes.
God damn.
And then we get into the following day.
These people he's doing the Lord's work. This is great.
Truly.
So which one did you say it looked most like? Because we'll share this with your
It'll
permission.
be on screen.
Yes.
This on our socials so we can
just in case anybody else has a pterosaur sighting.
Yeah, also,
Any kind of sighting. Yeah, they might have seen
it's
something.
useful. So I told him that the silhouette that best matched my sighting was number 13 on the list.
Ooh. Number 13.
And he told me that I had chosen the Sordis pilosis, which is a rhomphorhynchoid or long-tailed basal pterosaur. For those of you with science backgrounds, now you have that information.
Wow. So a dinosaur is what he's saying.
Yeah, I guess. Or a pterosaur, which is I think maybe between a dinosaur and a dragon, or maybe they're the same-ish. There's a lot of crossover. Who's to say?
Is it?
Yeah, we talked about him in the Houston Batman episode because that's spotted in Houston and that's a similar thing. And there is a Texas version of this fella that you're describing, it sounds like.
They probably know each other.
But he has the cowboy hat on top. That's the only. Didn't we recently talk about pterosaurs? Because wasn't it? I think there was another Freaky Friday or something where someone thought they'd seen a pterodactyl in Oklahoma, and I discovered that there are a lot of pterosaur sightings in Oklahoma. So is it kind of an evolved pterodactyl?
I mean, everything Jonathan said about it was that it's like classified as its own species, but that it seems to be pterodactyl adjacent in some way.
Okay.
So perhaps it was like the evolution of these creatures that we thought were extinct still remains, but their ancestors being close to pterodactyls or pterodactyl adjacent in some way. I think he has a book and his website is still up, so we could probably dive even deeper
we'll
into
reach
this.
out.
Oh yeah, we'll be reaching out.
That's incredible because you're right by, Los Angeles is not that far from the water. And in South Texas, kind of near the Gulf of Mexico, there's sightings of these pterosaurs. So I wonder if there's some sort of coastal connection as well. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast pterosaurs.
Did he think that they were flying towards Griffith Park because that's where they might have nest and live?
Potentially. He did. He told me, so after he sent me the silhouettes, he said that he really needed to talk to me on the phone, which obviously I was like, yes, sir, I will be talking to you on the phone.
Absolutely, we do.
It's 5 a.m. and y'all are on a phone call.
Let's do it.
I'm here for it.
I feel like there was, at this point in my life, I remember at least attempting to record this phone call, but that recording has since, been lost to the hard drives of time. But from what I remember talking to him about, he was basically telling me more about my sighting, about his work, about the history of the sightings in the area. He asked if he could include my sighting in his research. And then after our call, he followed up with another email saying, I'll refer to your sighting with the designation Griffith Park Rope-In because of the proximity to Griffith Park and because of your choice of the number 13 silhouette. He said the second 2004 Rope-In expedition involved...
What now?
Involved those same silhouettes, and the two native eyewitnesses who had adequate sighting clarity both chose number 13 on the silhouette list.
3 people ain't wrong.
He also said, I will maintain your anonymity by calling you CGP for California Griffith Park. Maybe at the time I was like, don't put my name in it, but at this point, fucking do it, man. Jonathan, if you're listening, feel free. He said the only way this bless his heart. This is one of my favorite things about Jonathan. He was like, the only way anyone would learn that that you had reported flying dragons is if your friends spread that news. It will not come from my writings. If any of your friends give you trouble about your sighting of dragons, let them know that there's a name for those animals, Rope-In. Please feel free to ask me questions about this subject at any time, Jonathan.
Anytime. Literally.
That.
I don't sleep 24 hours a day, you can get in touch with me.
It's like the Ghostbusters. You just call, he's right there.
He's right there
but
for you.
That's really kind that he says that, because we talk about like with the aerial school and the UFO sightings, a lot of people see stuff and they feel a lot of shame or they feel ostracized by their friends. So a person who is accepting these reports, it's lovely that he is also encouraging, like, hey, don't let anybody make you feel like shit, all right?
Thanks,
a lot of people.
Jonathan.
This happens to a lot of people. Everyone's just quiet about it. And now, you know what? We're not quiet about it anymore.
Yeah, we're
you
talking
saw
about it
Dragon,
publicly.
damn it. You're not the only
Dragon
one.
truthers. We've been dragon truthers for years.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
convinced that dragons were just dinosaurs and we just haven't found the maybe we haven't found one of their skeletons, one of their I don't know.
I think we made a compelling case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big archaeology is keeping it from us.
Big archaeology.
But-
They are up to a lot of nefarious shit.
Wow. So do you feel like that was a satisfying answer? Like these were rope-ins, or do you still think you saw
I feel like I
dragons?
went into this entire experience being like, there's probably some other explanation for what I just saw. So far, I haven't gotten any, no one else seems to be able to explain what it was. So as far as I'm concerned, Jonathan's got the best pitch. I haven't
brought
seen
the
any
answer.
dragons or pterosaurs or rope-in since then, but Jonathan is still at it. He's still updating his website with more sightings from around the country. He actually reached out to me one last time about 10 weeks later saying that somebody else had a similar sighting in the area and asked if I wanted to talk to her about it, which I think
That's so nice.
I emailed with her
That's
about
really
it a little
nice.
bit, and then I think I ghosted her.
He's trying to connect the community
Yeah.
so people know that,
You're not alone.
Because it probably is something that you're like, you could be embarrassed to talk about with people. But I just Googled these and straight up, they look like dragons. If
How do
I
you
saw
spell
3
it?
of these flying, ROPEN,
Okay.
if I saw 3 of these flying overhead, yes, I would also exclaim, did you just see those dragons? Because they absolutely look like dragons.
The artistic rendering.
Gosh.
Gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Yeah. And I think I didn't end up talking to the other person who had a sighting because it sounded to me like she was more viscerally affected by it. I think she
upset?
said something along the lines of since we've both had our lives changed forever or something like that. And I don't want to take that away from her, but I don't know if I could have held a conversation without being like, yeah, but maybe not. I don't know.
It's a fun cocktail party story.
Yeah,
you don't just be like, what does this mean for the future of humanity? There's goddamn rope-ins out there.
I loved talking to Jonathan about it, but I haven't followed up,
Yeah.
he's
You're
still
not
at
going
it.
to
He's
meetings
still-
or anything.
Right. I'm also not
dedicate
being
your
like
life.
Jonathan's a hack. I'm do it, man. Follow your heart, do your research. Live pterosaurs.com. Pterosaurs is spelled with a P.
Yes.
For those of you
Yes.
who, if it's been a minute since your last dinosaur class, that is an important.
Is he
They should call it that dinosaur class.
Is he just passionate, or what is his?
It sounds like
Job.
a cryptozoologist to me.
So he is a cryptozoologist. Is that what he is?
Yeah, I don't know if I got his
Because this does say, when I Googled ropen, the first thing is the ropen, meaning demon flyer.
Oh, shit.
Is a cryptid thought to be either a big bat or more commonly a pterosaur on New Guinea Island. Well, you weren't on New Guinea Island.
No.
Wait,
were
you
in
said his
Los
name
Angeles.
is Jonathan David Wickham?
Yeah, so live pterosaurs.
Oh, yeah, he's got a book on Amazon called Live Pterosaurs in America.
Yeah.
So this must be the book you're in. I'm going to get this.
Great. I believe I'm referred to as CPG or something along those lines.
Well, you'll have to autograph it for us.
Yeah, would you sign it for me next time I
Gladly.
see you on purpose? Thank you. I'm getting it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you've seen any pterosaurs in California or elsewhere, you could definitely contact him. It says that he is a cryptozoologist. Yeah.
That was just a guess on my part.
It's in his
Oftentimes they
bio.
are, in the talking heads on your History Channel Monster Quest shows. So, it's some of them say monster hunter and others say a cryptozoologist.
Yeah.
It's however you want to identify.
If you're a cryptozoologist, you're into conservation versus a monster hunter's trying to put the trophy on the wall is how I see it.
No, that's an important distinction.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, that's
You've blown our minds.
my whole weekend. I'm not gonna
so
lie,
glad.
it hasn't even happened yet, and I can already say this is the best thing that'll happen this
Done and
weekend.
done. I was already looking forward to this. I did not know I would just be wrecked for any other interview ever. I I couldn't have wished for a better thing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Never
thank
did
you.
I
You're
think
welcome.
what I could only describe as 3 dragons flying over my car.
And like, and the fact that this is how it ended, because I was fully prepared for you to be like, it was a Game of Thrones thing. They were promoting whatever.
I was looking
And
for it.
No,
I was
you
really
did the
trying
work.
to find the reason that it wasn't just dragons, but I don't have a good reason for it not being dragons thus far. So as far as I'm convinced, it was just dragons.
You
They were
saw it.
dragons.
You saw a pterosaur.
If you can't disprove it, it's proven.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in now. You know what? I saw what I saw. You can't take it away from me. That's what.
You can't prove that I didn't
3
see
of them.
dragons.
Yeah.
I don't know how you
And
would,
3.
but you can't.
Nope.
That seems like a family.
I like that
Probably
they were
more.
flying in a V formation too together.
Yes, they were. Yeah. Mhm. It was like one, and
Aw.
then
They had to
the other
go to their giant nest in Griffith Park. And doesn't Griffith Observatory have like big ass gargoyles or something?
It's like up on a hill kind of thing.
Do they have
Or
gargoyles?
am I
love
thinking of another
gargoyles.
thing?
They might. They might.
I might be wrong, but I was thinking maybe they were drawn to the gargoyles.
Their
because they were
brethren.
like, oh, one of us is over there. We
Family.
gotta go.
Oh,
we
they
gotta
like
go check.
gargoyles. They're probably pretty cool dragons. Yeah.
They look like my cousin. That's
It's a
cool.
safe
Gargoyles
bet.
are cool.
Yeah.
Gargoyles and dragons are cousins. I think that's just established.
I think
We
that's
just
right.
know.
That feels,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
feels right. Yeah.
That feels right. Yeah.
Oh, so right.
Anyway,
well, thank you
that's my
so much
dragon
for
story.
being with us today. Oh my gosh.
So good.
Could
so
not.
good. Well, where can everyone find all of the amazing things that you're doing?
Yeah, you can find Real Housewives of Dungeons and Dragons wherever you get your podcasts. We are also on Patreon at patreon.com/housewives of DnD and across all social media at Housewives of DnD. Chriskirkpatrickmas will be going up at Seven Dials Playhouse in London. We open for previews on December 1st and we open officially on December 4th. We will be running through December 30th. You can get tickets at sevendialsplayhouse.co.uk. And yeah, if you wanted to follow me, you can find me on Instagram at Riley Ace of Spies and on Twitter, which is now called X, although I cannot. So Twitter,
Yeah.
At Riley Rose Critch.
Riley Rose Critchlow, thank you for being with us today. Everybody go, if you're in London, go and see the Chriskirkpatrickmas for us, because we can't be there. We would be if we could. And absolutely listen to Real Housewives of D&D. Get caught up so you can catch Christy's episode on the 11th and mine dropping a little bit after Christmas. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having
this
me.
was so much fun.
What a blast.
And if anyone else has seen these dragons,
Please.
please reach out, because we'll start a Facebook group.
Yeah, go to our Instagram. We're gonna put this up so that you all can choose which one you saw, because we need to know. We need to know
it's
who's
just
seen what
good
out
to
there.
have on hand in case you see anything and you're like, is that Batman or is it a dragon?
Did you send it? I saved it right away to my phone. Just
34 choices. 34. Like
There's that many.
Baskin Robbins, but they were 31, weren't they?
Yeah, just better. A little bit better.
Just a little bit
Baskin
better than
Robbins, but a little bit
Baskin
higher. Suck it, Baskin Robbins.
Well, thank you, Riley. We love you so much.
Thank
you.
And
Love you guys
everybody
too.
go follow them and listen to everything that they're a part of, because it's all fantastic.
Yeah, you're doing yourself a favor, really.